Please state your name and affiliation.
My name is Sean Turney, and I'm a PhD student in McGill's Natural Resource Sciences Department.
Could you give us a summary of your research?
I study insect ecology.
My name is Anya Geitman. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences and also the Associate Vice Principal of the McDonald campus of McGill University.
Why is diversity important to you?
I think there's some interesting parallels between why the reasons we're realizing why biodiversity is important in nature and why diversity is important in STEM. So one of the main theories of why biodiversity is important is because if you have different species, each species excels at doing different things within the ecosystem. So the more species you have, the more likely that all of the things that need to get done in an ecosystem, its functions, all of them are fulfilled and functioning properly. And by analogy, in STEM, if you have a diversity of people who come from different backgrounds, they'll have different perspectives, different ways of looking at the world, different ways of approaching a problem, and therefore the thing that we're doing, science or technology or engineering, will get done better because there's all these different approaches that are happening.
Is it actually part of the policy of here at Agricultural and Resource Science? Is there a policy statement that talks about diversity and inclusivity?
We have, of course, every hiring decision
Yeah.
is being made taking this into consideration. So, for example, when we get CVs, we look at, what is the gender distribution in the CVs that we receive, all of them, right? And so then we look at what are the people that are shortlisted and do they represent the distribution, both in terms of gender and minorities, for example. And then, only then do we go about selecting the best person, because the best person should get the job, absolutely. Yeah. But we want to have a shortlist that actually represents the wider community that has applied to the job.
And that's been done for a number of years, even prior to you being dean.
Oh, absolutely. That is something that McGill has. I think McGill, among all Canadian universities, is very much spearheading this and has been doing so. And it is one of the universities with the highest representation of females, for example,
Yeah.
in their leadership teams. And so it's doing well, but we can always do better. And we need to overcome our own biases, internal and subconscious biases, in order to do so. And really consider everybody for a job who is qualified.
Were there any instances you feel that you were treated differently because you were a transgender man?
For the most part, I've been treated really fairly, I think. That most of the people that I've interacted with in science have been good people who are open-minded and who engage with the ideas of their colleagues rather than whatever particular traits they have. But that being said, I do think I probably have at times been treated differently. It's a hard question to answer because it's difficult to distinguish between what are experiences that I've had just being me and what are part of more like a broader experience of being transgender in science. And it's not really a cultural conversation that's happening, like what is the experience of being a transgender person in STEM, at least not in the same way as, for example, for women in STEM.
So have you experienced and or seen bias in your career?
In my own career, for the longest time, I thought I didn't, because I went through the academic path quite unimpeded, and everybody always supported me. Until, in hindsight, I sort of discovered the small biases that I experienced. I give you a couple of examples. Awards are something that really only gives you one line in your CV, you won this or that award, but when they accumulate and sum up in your CV, they strengthen a CV enormously. And I have submitted a number of nominations of other people to awards, and I discovered that in my own CV I basically had no award. And people, and I discovered this when I was dean only, when I was asked to, you know, let people know what kind of awards I had. I was like, no, I really don't have any. And it always takes somebody else to actually nominate you for an award, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, what are my own biases maybe? And I looked at my own award nominations that I did for other people, and lo and behold, all the people I ever nominated for awards were male. So I have to start with myself to see, am I biased in terms of seeing in other people that they're qualified and worthy of an award? And was I maybe the victim, so to say, of that same unconscious, and I think it's unconscious, bias in terms of awards? So that's one thing that didn't particularly affect my own CV. I'm here and I have a very high position, but I'm pretty sure that affects a lot of women in their CV, in building up their academic CV. The other thing is, and I think that's not a bias or discrimination, it's simply a difference in behavior. There's this statistics, I don't know whether it's true, but it's very interesting. A man will apply to a job when he only fulfills part of the qualifications that are written out in the job profile. Maybe about 60% of those qualifications that are required in the job profile, he will happily submit his CV, whereas a woman will only bother to do so when she thinks she fulfills 100% of the qualifications.
This is based on a study you read about?
This is based on a study that I read about, but only indirectly, so I cannot vouch for the 60% and 100%, but I'm pretty sure that the tendency is very true, because it's not so much that we don't think ourselves qualified or that women think themselves to be qualified. It's more than they won't bother because they think they will not be considered anyways if they don't fulfill 100% of the qualifications that are in the advertised portfolio or profile. The problem is women don't realize that the game is not played that well. Of course, everybody who advertises a job profile would like to have that perfect person who has all the qualifications, but there is none such person. And so they will look at a whole lot of CVs that do not fulfill all the qualifications and choose the person that best does the job. And this is actually how I ended up in this job myself. I would have never considered to actually apply to it. I was very, very aggressively headhunted into it by a headhunter who told me, try it, submit your CV. And it took him 3 times to actually convince me to update my CV, which is a major enterprise for academics, to submit it, because I thought, why would they even consider me? I have no administrative experience, for example. Turns out that the people who then hired me saw many other things in my CV that did seem to qualify me for the job. And so this is how it goes in many cases. We're not qualified for all the qualifications in the job advertisement, but women just think the game is played that way and they don't even apply to start with, which is a bias that is self-inflicted that we need to work on.